Welcome, everyone. We're diving deep into the world of protocol officers today.
Definitely a fascinating role.
For sure. And to help us, we've got this great YouTube video from expert Minabai Seibofa. You know, when you first hear protocol officer, you might think, okay, super formal, kind of stuffy, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
But this video really opens up a whole other side to it.
Yeah, it's a lot more dynamic than people realize.
Okay, so first things first. Let's break it down. What is a protocol officer? The video defines it as, well, facilitating for the organization, planning VIP visits, ceremonies, meetings. It sounds like making sure everything runs without a hitch.
It is, but with this added layer of cultural sensitivity,
Right. Like not just the logistics, but making everyone feel comfortable and respected no matter where they're from.
Exactly. Think about it. If your CEO is going to, say, Nigeria for the first time, a protocol officer would handle way more than just flights and hotels.
There'd be like a cultural guide too, right?
Exactly. They'd brief the CEO on local customs, make sure they don't accidentally offend anyone, ensure everything's culturally appropriate, so no awkward handshakes or anything.
So it's like a blend of event planner, cultural expert, and maybe even a little bit of mind reader.
Huh. Yeah, you could say that.
And the video really emphasized how flexible and adaptable protocol officers have to be.
Yeah, because plans change all the time. Personalities clash sometimes. You got to think on your feet and handle those curveballs.
Which makes me wonder, what kind of person actually thrives in this kind of role? What does it take?
Well, the video outlines some pretty key traits. One that stuck out to me, being up on current events. You don't have to be a walking encyclopedia of everything happening in the world.
But you got to be comfortable in those conversations.
Yeah, exactly. You're dealing with some pretty high-level people often, so you got to be able to hold your own, talk about politics, economics, whatever comes up.
Right, because you're often the bridge between these different worlds.
Yeah.
In a way.
Absolutely. And another crucial thing is cross-cultural fluency. It's not just about speaking different languages. It's about understanding those unspoken rules of communication.
It's like having a sixth sense for cultural nuances, almost.
Right. And then, of course, you need amazing listening skills.
Yeah, especially dealing with those demanding VIPs, right?
Right. But it's more than just hearing. It's about understanding those underlying messages and anticipating needs before they even come up.
So a little bit of diplomat, a little bit of detective.
For sure. And the video also listed things like being creative, level-headed, dependable.
All those essential qualities.
Oh, and don't forget, honesty. Integrity is huge here. You're dealing with so much sensitive information and those high-stakes situations.
So it's not just about knowing the right fork to use. It's about having a strong ethical core.
Absolutely. It's about doing the right thing, not just doing things right.
That's a great point. Okay, so we've talked about personality, but what about the actual tasks? What's a day in the life of a protocol officer really look like?
Well, it's pretty dynamic, that's for sure.
I bet.
Like we touched on earlier, there's the whole research piece, traditions, customs, making sure you're not stepping on anyone's toes culturally.
Yeah, like figuring out the right way to greet someone or even exchange gifts in a certain culture.
Right. It's like a cultural puzzle sometimes. And then there's developing those detailed itineraries, checklists,
So super organized, I imagine.
Extremely. Because you're essentially creating a roadmap for every event, making sure it flows smoothly, from travel logistics to even things like seating arrangements. It's all in their hands.
Speaking of seating arrangements, I bet that can be a minefield.
Oh, it definitely can be. Think about those events with high-level officials where everyone wants the best seat. That's where a protocol officer's diplomacy skills really shine.
I can imagine.
They have to understand the hierarchy, know who should be where, and be ready to handle any potential conflicts.
It's a lot more than just putting names on chairs. You need that real attention to detail and a knack for anticipating problems.
Yeah, for sure. And on top of that, there's the security side, too.
Right, because with these important people involved, things can get a little dicey sometimes.
Exactly. The video mentioned protocol officers are responsible for identifying any potential security risks and, creating those safety plans, crowd control, emergency procedures, you name it.
So it's like they're always thinking 10 steps ahead.
That's a good way to put it. And all this, we haven't even touched on the digital side of things.
Oh, right. That's a whole other layer.
In today's world, protocol officers need to be pros at online etiquette, too. Social media presence, making sure everyone's representing themselves well online,
Especially when one wrong tweet can cause, a major international incident.
Exactly. It's like they're juggling both the physical and digital realms of protocol.
That's a great point. So we've covered a lot of ground here. What stood out to you the most about this whole protocol officer thing?
It's the sheer range of what they do that's really gotten me thinking. They need so much knowledge and like this constant willingness to adapt, especially in a world that's always changing.
So it's not just about knowing the rules. It's about having this constant curiosity, this drive to learn and connect with people from different cultures, different backgrounds.
I think that's at the heart of it, really.
Well, if you're ready to keep going down this rabbit hole, we've still got more to uncover. Next up, we're tackling those ethical dilemmas that come with the job.
Yeah, because it's not just about doing things right. It's about doing the right thing.
Exactly. Stay tuned.
Deep dive conversation. Protocol across the nation.
Okay, so we've been talking about all the skills you need to be a great protocol officer, but there's another side to it, right?
Yeah, there's a whole ethical dimension to this job that we can't ignore.
Definitely. Because you're not just dealing with logistics. You're often in these situations where discretion, judgment, those things really matter.
Exactly. So let's dive into some real-world scenarios where those ethical lines can get a little blurry, those tough calls a protocol officer might face.
Okay, yeah, give me an example.
All right, imagine you're organizing this big diplomatic dinner, right? And seating arrangements, they're always a sensitive thing.
Oh, I can imagine.
But in this case, you've got two foreign dignitaries who, well, let's just say they have a bit of a history, a rivalry going on.
Oh, that's tricky.
Yeah, it is, because you put them too close together and you could have some serious tension at the dinner table. But if you separate them too much, it could be seen as a snub.
Right, like you're taking sides or playing favorites.
Exactly. So the protocol officer needs to be super aware of these political dynamics, and make decisions that keep things balanced and respectful, even with all that baggage.
Wow, it's like walking a tightrope. So how do they even approach these situations?
Research, lots of research. Before the event, they should be talking to people, getting the backstory on the relationships, and coming up with different seating plans just in case.
So like a backup plan for when things go south?
Exactly. And then during the event, it's about being observant, reading the room, being ready to adjust on the fly if things start to feel tense.
So they have to be part historian, part psychologist, part improvisation expert.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
It's amazing how much work goes on behind the scenes to make these events look effortless.
Right. And those ethical challenges, they go way beyond seating charts. Sometimes a protocol officer might even be asked to organize something that goes against their own personal beliefs,
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Imagine, for example, you're asked to plan this extravagant party, but it feels really wasteful or like environmentally irresponsible. What do you do then?
That's a tough one. How do they balance their own values with what their job is asking them to do?
That's the constant struggle, right? They have to be able to say, hey, this is where I draw the line, while still fulfilling their responsibilities. Sometimes it means finding those creative compromises, like suggesting more sustainable options for the party. Other times it might mean having those difficult conversations with the higher-ups, explaining their concerns, and offering alternatives.
Which takes a lot of guts, especially when you're dealing with powerful people or organizations.
Absolutely. And then there's the whole issue of confidentiality, right? Protocol officers are in the loop on so much sensitive information.
So knowing when to speak up and when to stay quiet is key.
For sure. You have to build trust, but you also got to maintain those ethical standards.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
Yeah.
Are there any guidelines or resources out there to help protocol officers navigate these ethical gray areas?
Well, a lot of the professional organizations for protocol officers, they have codes of ethics and best practices. And mentorships can be super valuable too.
Oh yeah, having someone to talk to, bounce ideas off of, especially when you're facing those tough decisions.
Exactly. And we can't forget about cultural sensitivity, right? That plays a huge role in ethical decision-making too. What's okay in one culture could be a big no-no in another.
So protocol officers really need to be constantly learning, adapting to all these cultural nuances and ethical complexities.
Absolutely. And that brings up another interesting question. With the world changing so fast, how is this profession adapting? What does the future hold for the protocol officer?
That's a great question. And that's actually what we're going to dive into in part 3. So stay tuned. All right, so we've talked about the skills, the ethics, all the things that go into being a protocol officer.
Right. Really gotten a good look at what they do.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the future.
Yeah, what does the future hold for this profession?
Exactly. Because the world's changing so quickly, right? So where does protocol fit into all of that?
Well, I think the future's pretty bright for protocol officers, actually.
Yeah. How so?
Think about it. the world's becoming more and more interconnected. Globalization,
Or in more international business, more collaboration across borders.
Exactly. And that means you're going to need people who can bridge those cultural gaps, who can make sure those interactions go smoothly.
People who speak the language, both literally and figuratively.
Exactly. And it's not just about international relations anymore either.
Oh, interesting. So it's going beyond just diplomats and heads of state.
Yeah, for sure. Companies are realizing that protocol is important for all sorts of things. Building relationships, managing their reputation, even attracting talent.
Huh. I never thought about it that way.
Think about it. Tech companies with teams all over the world, universities trying to get international students, even entrepreneurs building their brand online. They all need to navigate cultural differences.
And make sure they're not making any cultural faux pas.
Exactly. So there's a growing need for protocol expertise in all kinds of fields.
So what kinds of career paths are we talking about here? What will protocol officers be doing in the future?
Well, one trend I see is specialization.
What do you mean?
Instead of being a generalist, you might become an expert in a specific region's protocol. So you know everything about, say, Asian business etiquette or European diplomatic protocol.
Oh, like a cultural ambassador, not just for a country, but for a whole region.
Exactly. And another area that's just exploding is digital protocol.
Right, because so much is happening online now.
Yeah, so protocol officers will need to be pros at things like online etiquette, social media strategy, managing online reputation, all of that.
So those virtual interactions are just as important as the in-person ones.
Absolutely. And then, data is becoming more and more important in every field.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I think protocol officers will need to get good at using data to track trends, measure their impact, make better decisions.
So it's like taking the art of protocol and adding that layer of data-driven strategy.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe we'll even see AI tools being used to help protocol officers in the future.
Oh, wow. Like what kind of tools?
Well, imagine an AI assistant that can analyze cultural data, suggest the right gifts to give, or even draft personalized greetings in multiple languages.
That's incredible. It sounds like the future of protocol is this really cool mix of tradition and technology.
It is. Embracing new tools, but still holding on to those core values of respect, understanding, and building bridges across cultures.
So after all this, what's the one thing you'd say is most important for someone who wants to work in protocol, especially looking ahead to the future?
I'd say it's that willingness to keep learning, to be adaptable.
Because the world's not going to slow down anytime soon.
Exactly. So you need to be curious, always wanting to learn more about different cultures and be ready to adapt to new situations and technologies.
It's not just about knowing the rules. It's about having that open mind and that desire to connect with people, no matter where they're from.
I think you nailed it.
Well, this has been an awesome journey into the world of protocol. From seating charts to online etiquette, it's definitely a profession that keeps you on your toes.
It is. But it's also incredibly rewarding, knowing you're helping people connect and build those bridges across cultures.
Absolutely. And in a world that sometimes feels more divided than ever, that's a pretty amazing thing to be a part of.
I agree.
So whether you're thinking about a career in protocol or just want to navigate the world with a little more grace and understanding, remember, protocol matters. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep exploring the world with an open mind and a curious heart.
We'll explore the tide.